Enjoy our high-quality fiberglass or carbon fiber telescoping masts for portable wire antenna deployment. And as soon as we get them, we're stuck in the paradigm of wrapping duct tape around them, paracord pipe clamps, or creating some secondary tube to get them standing up. What if there was some way to have no cord surrounding this and have it freestanding? How's it going, everyone? Bob here, KD4BMG HOA Ham. Today I'm privileged to share with you and introduce this new innovative design from Chameleon antenna that, in my opinion, will forever change the way we look at and think about deploying our telescoping portable antenna masts for wire antennas. And I have two new masts to share with you today. We'll talk about the various mounts that we can install these on, the physical characteristics of these two new masts, as well as just get a look at a couple of actual installations. I've left the links in the description below to where you can go purchase one of these new innovative masts, as well as the mounts I'm demonstrating and the antennas, which are currently commercially available. I received an early production sample. The documentation is not yet complete from Chameleon at the time of my making this video, so there might be some final details that differ from how I'm describing today. I have 5 mounting solutions I'm going to demonstrate for you, and then the 6th is my absolute favorite. So stick around to the end to see Bob's absolute favorite deployment of his new carbon fiber mast. Our paradigm starts with a ground spike. Of course, we're going to use a ground spike to get this into the ground. And then our second paradigm goes to a tripod. And you might think, Bob, there's no way you can get this 34-foot plus carbon fiber mast up in the air with a tripod. Well, with a simple small tripod, no, you can't. With a survey tripod and this survey adapter, you can go from those threads on a common surveyor tripod that you can pick up on Amazon over to 3/8 by 24. And now all of a sudden, I have a mast that lets me get as high as I need to for my Ribicoff. I don't need 34 plus feet, I need 25 feet. So I'm going to deploy my wire antenna 25 feet in the air, get this Ribicoff matching unit, this 4-to-1 matching unit hanging down towards the bottom so I can deploy my ground radials. You may notice that things look a little bit crooked. That's not your eyeball. That is actually, I'm standing on a hill and I have purposely set up this tripod to lean. So you can actually get pretty creative with this system. Whether it's a ground spike, you can put it in the ground a little bit on an angle. Here I set up the tripod so my matching unit would hang away from the carbon fiber mast. Some people freak out about carbon fiber. They say it can interfere with your signal. I've actually done videos demonstrating you can use carbon fiber as an antenna. So here I am deploying my ground radials so that I can use my Ribicoff. And I do want to point out here, not only can you lean this at an angle if you need to for the antenna that you're using, you also don't have to use all of the mast. This is 34 and 7 inches, I think, 34 feet, 7 inches long. You don't need to deploy the whole thing. Height might be might on a vertical, generally speaking, but every antenna is designed to be installed at a certain height, so install it at the height intended. You don't need to use all 34 plus feet. 25 is all I was going for here, and this worked perfect for me. Yep, that's a park ranger coming up. She was wondering what on earth I was doing. We had a great conversation. Found out her husband is a ham radio operator here in the Tampa Bay area. He runs UHF VHF for emergency preparedness. We had a great conversation. Safe operating is 100% on us. We must know where our masts are going, where our radiating elements are going. If they topple over, is anybody in harm's way? It can't be. We always have to take care of this. I knew exactly what would happen if this mast toppled over. Keep your eye on it. There you can see my matching unit dangling 34 feet, 7 inches fully extended. 2 down, 3 to go, plus my favorite installation. But first, let's spend some time talking about the physical characteristics of these two new masts. Let's start with the longest of the two, which comes in at 34 feet 7 inches when fully extended, and when collapsed tip to tip 24 inches. It weighs 2 pounds and 9 ounces, according to my scale I use for shipping packages UPS, and it has 20 sections. The top 19 sections are carbon fiber. The bottom section is fiberglass, which is necessary to get this industrial adhesive to stick to this and adhere to this fully integrated metal base, which has the 3/8 by 24 stud on the bottom. The other one, the smaller version, extends to 16 feet and 5 inches. Tip to tip, it is 17.5 inches, and it comes in at 1 pound, 2 ounces. Similar construction here with the base, the industrial adhesive, with this innovative metal base with the integrated 3/8 by 24 that gives us all the creativity, and we'll show more of those creative installations here in a moment. Let's talk about the cap and the top sections and how you actually deploy your antenna. What you do for a loop on your antenna is your business. Whether or not you put any power cord or shock cord on the end of it, again, your business. What this comes with is a eyelet that will actually screw into the top section of the mast. And it's the same for both of them, and it will actually fit here in the top cap. Actually, it's hanging on there to the top section. It's the exact same eyelet. So we have a very similar size top section on both of those, if not identical. So simply stated, you would just screw this eyelet in, and then you would use what a lot of us use when we deploy wire antennas. We would just clip an S-clip on top of this, and then we would run our wire antenna. You have options here. Some people will take these types of S-clips and they'll actually go with this open end here, and they'll just put it over top of the mast until you get a section of the mast that is thick enough to where this kind of binds up and holds. I've done that before on some of my fiberglass masts. That will work just fine with the larger mast. It will not work with the smaller. Well, it will, but you'll lose a lot of your height if you take that approach. So I don't recommend that with the shorter mast, because you're going to lose a very good portion of your distance, your height. Let me just finally show you. Yeah, right here. Right here is where I bind up. So I lose 1, 2, 3. I lose 3 sections if I do that. So that is not an acceptable solution. So what is the acceptable solution if you're going to go the route of using one of these S-clips instead of the supplied eyelet? Well, there is a really thick section of plastic on all of these S-clips, and so a lot of people just will drill a hole through that thick section, and then this will go over top and stop at the second section and bind up here, and that would be another way that you could deploy. So that's how we're going to deploy if you don't want to use the top eyelet. And I think people are as creative about this as they are how to get these standing upright, right? We use duct tape, power cord, pipe clamps. Of course, we've solved that solution. We don't need to do that anymore. We have an integrated base 3/8 by 24 stud. That's how we're going to deploy on the base side. You have options for the antenna wire side. Let's get to some more of those actual setups. The type of antenna, the location of the matching unit, the recommendations of the manufacturer all influence our deployment and how we would set up these carbon fiber masts. A matching unit to the ground, where it might be attached to a tabletop or another stake, and the wire going up to the mast, well, these masts will handle just about anything you can throw at them. Some of the antennas that I use, it's recommended that the matching unit go up high, elevated, and so it would be attached to the mast itself. If you're going to do that type of deployment, then I always recommend using the RG316, because it is lighter weight and you're not putting so much stress on your mast regardless of the mast that you're using, and that is more than sufficient for HF operations. Having received early production samples, I don't yet have the user's guide from Chameleon. The user's guide will give information about the weight of antennas that you would want to use these masts with. I deployed all 4 of these antennas with both of these masts. The LEFS 4010 Feather, they both just laughed at the weight of this. This is a very small matching unit that would go down towards your radio, the wire up to the top of the mast, 15 to 20 feet, and this is so lightweight that it was no problem in either case. I did deploy my Ribicoff with the 34-foot mast, and let's get a weight on the Ribicoff antenna. It's hard to read the screen in the camera. It's very readable to me. It comes in at 10.7 ounces, so that was nothing for that 34-foot mast. I also deployed what I would consider an antenna that shouldn't be deployed with these two masts. Now, that is Bob's opinion. And again, because I don't know the actual manufacturer's specifications of this material and whether or not it can be or is designed to handle this much weight, this is my opinion, and we will wait for Chameleon to weigh in on this. I'm not one of those people that likes to abuse the gear that I own. I like to, go to what its maxed out rating is and then back up a couple notches for how I deploy and operate. That way I'm not pushing my gear to its absolute limits all of the time. But both of these masts could handle this. And oddly enough, the 16-foot did better. I did not take this and put it all the way up at 34 feet because you don't deploy this antenna at 34 feet. 15 to 20 feet is certainly sufficient. And that means you're taking the matching unit up high. And again, if you're going to do something like that, use your lighter weight coax. But I will show this being used with the 16-footer because amazingly it handled it without the second wire. It handled it. So I had probably, I'm going to say I had roughly about 1 pound, 2 to 3 ounces I was deploying on the 16-footer. Again, can it do it? It did it. Would I do it? I don't think I would. Again, that's Bob's opinion. So, you have a broad range of antennas that you can use. And oh, by the way, an antenna like this that might be too heavy to raise the matching unit up, you can always deploy with the matching unit down. And then this antenna would be perfect for both of these masts. So let's talk a little bit more about the LEFS 4010. I have 3 more deployments to demonstrate quickly before I get to my favorite of all, but do realize there's an option that I'm really not going to show out in the field. You can deploy this like you've deployed your other telescoping masts through time. Just plop this on the ground, tie it off to a stake, and then go ahead and start telescoping sections up. Do protect your 3/8 by 24 stud on the bottom. I have these rubber protectors that I chop in half, and I use these with my telescoping stainless steel whips. I'm thinking about chopping off a piece of Delrin about the same diameter of this base and drilling it out and tapping it, and that might be something I add to my kit to protect the threads, as well as give me the ability just to plop this on the ground and get it erected. I've looked through all of the videos that I've posted to YouTube, and amazingly, I've never done a video on the LEFS 4010. It is one of my favorite antennas to deploy mobile and POTA in particular. One, because as an LEFS 4010, it's resonant on 40, 20, 15, and 10. And then beyond that, you have the ability to convert this over to a dipole. So now I can have a dipole on 12, 17, or 30, or I can have a linked dipole. One linked dipole on 40, 20, and 15, and another linked dipole option on 40, 30, and 20. Of course, you yourself can create your own wires to add to this dipole. These kits do come pre-assembled from Chameleon. And the reason I like the 4010 is because it is lightweight, it's portable, it's adaptable, it's versatile, and it works great with both of these masts. I'm going to break with the agenda and go ahead and show you my favorite deployment with this 16-foot mast. It's on my truck. I'll show you the final 3 deployments with other mounts after this. But I always like to use my truck in any deployment portable. So especially when I go POTA, the closest POTA park to me is at a beach. Sometimes it's very busy there. If I can find a parking space and find a way to get an antenna erected somehow where my truck is integral to the setup, I find that advantageous. That way, almost no matter where I go, I have the ability to get an antenna up in the air and do parks on the air or any kind of portable operation that I'm inclined to do at that point in time. So I frequently try to do something that incorporates the truck. Specifically with this antenna, I'll go to the left side of the picture and I'll head to the palm trees across from the parking lot here, and I'll tie down the wire tall enough so that any car can go underneath it. And then I'll go to the other side of the truck, and that's where I'll hook up my FX4CR. This is always something that I enjoy doing because now my truck becomes a workstation where I'm operating my radio, and it becomes integral to the equipment deployment, in this case, my new carbon fiber mast and my LEFS 4010. Is this frequency in use? Is this frequency in use? KD4BMG. I've owned my truck now since late December last year. It's filled with more electronic options than I've ever had with a vehicle before in my life, and I'm loving all of the technology. But I am concerned with the amount of interference my RF could feed into the vehicle or that the vehicle could send towards my radio, so I'm slow walking this to make sure I get it right. Fortunately, the tonneau cover that was installed at the factory comes with a T-rail system right on top of the bed. That means that a bolt with a flange on top can slide into that T-rail system, and it allows me to attach this stud and have it available for a adapter that will go from the metric size of the stud over to 3/8 by 24, and that's how I installed my 16-foot 5-inch mast. Now, that T-track system is about 4 feet off the ground, so now I have a 20-foot 5-inch mast, more than sufficient for all the antennas that I deploy. The 16 feet is enough for me. Now I get an extra 4 feet with using the truck, and that's one of the reasons why I like deploying with my truck. So you say, Bob, the parks that I do parks on the air don't allow me to put ground spikes in the ground. I can't do the spike. As much as I love that survey adapter from Chameleon to use a commercially available survey tripod, I really don't have room in my kit for that. Isn't there anything smaller? Well, we'll talk about 2 smaller options before I get to the final third option. And 2 of these 3 also involve my truck. If you can find yourself a picnic table or a bench at a park, you're good to go. The Chameleon UCM, Universal Clamp Mount, is a heavy-duty clamp mount that can be affixed to any flat surface, a bench, a picnic table, anything up to 2 3/4 inches in thickness. It can handle large telescoping antennas, and it can handle the longest of these 2 masts. By now you're getting the idea. Anything 3/8 by 24 that can handle the side torsion that such a mast would put on that gear, if you already own it, then you have something you can deploy with. The jaw mount is another compact but robust solution. These things are strong, and they can handle the weight that either a tall antenna or the side torsion, side force that these masts will put on them. I'm attaching this to my bicycle rack. Do know that these jaws have teeth on them that grab on and dig in. So don't put them on a surface that you're concerned about being marred. A painted surface, a chrome surface, this could mar the surface. So do be sure that you're okay with that before you go torquing down. I've been putting these 2 different masts through their paces for several weeks now, deploying them over and over again in various parks and backyard portable here at my home. Multiple antennas, multiple mounts, doing my best to stress them in the amount of time that I've had them available to me. I have one observation that I want to point out to you. These 2 masts have performed perfectly for me, but as I've deployed them in many different mount situations, I have one observation. And I want to make this suggestion to you. Again, this is my observation. But as I put this ground spike on, you can see that the stud is completely inserted into the mount, and the top surface of the mount is tight against the bottom surface of the metal adapter on the mast. And that is the case on the ground spike. It's the case with this adapter that goes with the surveyor tripod. See how that seats tightly? So I think most of you are getting my drift here. What we're doing is we're spreading the load, and we're not putting it solely on the bottom stud. And I just think that that's a smart thing to try to do. I noticed this specifically when I did deploy at the park, and I deployed with my jaw mount here. I noticed that it did not seat all the way, mostly because the nut here is a short nut. So I'm going to replace that nut with something that is longer. I have bottomed out in the nut, and you can see that there's almost a 1/4 inch of my stud exposed. And for me, I'm just going to make sure that all of my hardware is swapped out so I get that firm touch point against the bottom side of this metal base. I just think that's smart. So now we're on to the final adapter, and it's this adapter right here. This adapter, very specifically for me, I use on top of a max gain system fiberglass mast. This is 1 inch, maybe just slightly over 1 inch, but anything that is 1 inch in diameter, this will fit on top of. And so you have holes not only to put carabiners and fly wire antennas, but you have 3/8 by 24 on the top of this. So what we end up with is another very tight seated situation where this is now going to go on the back of my car. I told you some of the final 2 installations were going to be the back of my vehicle. Do tell me now that you're about to see my final deployment. Comment below and let me know your idea for installing this in a way that I have not demonstrated. The max gain system mast goes with me at all places in this vehicle. It lets me fly my SS-25. It'll fly my tactical Delta Loop. I've actually purchased a longer version of it so I can get my tactical Delta Loop 20 feet in the air. It doesn't need to be max gain systems. Anything that will hold the weight of a mast, hold the weight of these new carbon fiber masts, you can just use this topper. Anything that has a 1 inch diameter, that will work. So this becomes an option for you if you're in a parking lot and you don't have any other way to operate. You don't have that T-track like I do in the back of my truck. You can just latch this, any mast that has a 1 inch top, to the back of your vehicle, to a bike rack, and then add your carbon fiber mast on it and go ahead and deploy your wire antennas. I think every one of us who deploys portable antennas, operates POTA, backyard portable, goes outside and likes to hang wire antennas, we're looking at this and going, of course. Why didn't I think of that? Or if I did think of it, we didn't know how to pull it off. Thanks, Chameleon, for this innovation. This is a game changer. Thanks for watching, friends. Talk to you soon. 73.